Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Christy Taylor Show. Now, the special editions are truly special. This is when I stream live, typically on a Friday, giving you all amazing people, find out what they're doing, especially here in the Memphis area. And today is a very special edition indeed. I'm going to be talking to Ronald Cortez II, aka R2C2H2, the artivist, also known as Brother Ron. He is a believer, a manifest star, and visionary, the founder and chief executive artivist of the We All Be Group, Inc., a nonprofit organization right here in Memphis that creates annual events that highlight the greatness of Memphis's cultural heritage from an African-American perspective, as well as promotes educational empowerment via knowledge of self enrichment projects. Now, the organization creates and sponsors annual projects such as the National Fort Pillow Massacre wreath laying ceremony, as well as the Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival. Now, Brother Ron created a popular YouTube channel, We All Be TV, where he has prolifically interviewed iconic and colorful characters such as Baba Dick Gregory, Judge Joe Brown, and other notables. Now, he's also a very successful visual artist. You can check out some of his work on his website, and he plays the trumpet, the cornet, occasionally. Now, Brother Ron is a proud product of the Shelby County Schools and their creative and performing arts program over at Overton High School, class of 98, ladies and gentlemen. And he's also a graduate, check this out, of Washington University in St. Louis. He has a BFA as of 2002, as well as he's alum of the John B. Irvin Scholars Program, and he holds an MBA from 2009 from Bethel University. I want y'all to help me welcome to the Christy Taylor Show's special edition. We're talking about special. Hey, what's up, Ron? Or as we say, R2C2H2.
Hey, Sister Christy, it's an honor to be on here.
Well, thank you so much. Now, first of all, I believe the very first time, I'm trying to take it back.
Yeah, wow.
It was right before you went away to college. Your mom came to Hallelujah FM. I had the pleasure of interviewing her on one of the public affairs shows on a Sunday. And this is when your mom, Callie Hurd, was talking about, first of all, how brilliant you were as a young man in your high school academic, achievements, and how you had applied to multiple schools and the amount of scholarships that you got. Do you remember that interview? You would have been around 17 or 18 at the time.
Yeah, time really does fly. I definitely remember the interview. It's like if I had a time machine, though, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. So for that, I'm saying that I have known of you and known you since then, and I'm really excited to see your growth and the things you've done over the last 20 plus years here in the Memphis area, and how you've always come back home and you've contributed to the culture, which brings us to why we're chatting today. Now, for those who may not know what I mean by you are committed to the culture, can you break down the organizations that you established and a lot of the work that you've done?
Oh, definitely, Sister Christy. I want to thank you for giving us the platform, your platform, to amplify our message of empowerment and enrichment and of knowledge yourself. I'm the founder, the chief executive artivist, as you said. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a 501c3, but we've been doing this work way before then. But what we do is we try to do annual events that really highlights the greatness of Memphis and also put back the missing chapters in the Memphis narrative, the unofficial Memphis narrative. So
right.
Like what we've been doing, for example, we got the Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival week kicking off on Sunday. It's a whole week of festivities honoring a Black man's amazing legacy as a musician, educator, humanitarian, and philanthropist, Jimmie Lunceford, and also honoring excellence in Memphis music and also its practitioners who may be unsung. So we've been doing that in this format for 5 years, since 2017, but the efforts to honor Mr. Lunceford himself, the man, the legend, begun with me in 2007.
Wow. Now let's talk about that. Number one, because you are a visual artist as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
trying to see some of your work
yeah,
behind
speak my
you.
word. Yeah.
Yes. Not only does he look, I hope y'all saw that the behind you, the work that he has,
I had to work. Yep, got my shirt.
his graphics and everything. A highly
Yeah.
talented, creative person.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But you also are a musical artist as well.
Yeah.
And is that your link to? I mean, because there's a lot of people from Memphis. Let's establish this now. We know that we are a gold mine when it comes to creative
Oh yeah,
people.
definitely.
And you being one of the many. But
Yeah.
why have you made it a life's work to celebrate those who preceded us? Because you could just be like, I'm out here doing my art and,
Yeah.
literally tooting your own horn. Can we talk about your own creative process and why you felt it's important to honor those who preceded you?
Oh, most definitely, because everybody has a starting point, right? Everybody has a beginning, and I don't believe there's a such thing as an ending. Actually, I believe in a continuum. And my thing is that I always been into history, and I love, even as a little kid, learning about people's backstory, their origin story, not just comic book people, but also real people.
Right.
Like when I was in elementary in the school public library, I'll check out books about presidents and military generals and people like that. Just to have a fascinating, like what motivated them to become who they end up becoming. And I always love listening to the elders talk about life and stuff like that. Cause the Emmett Till movie is debuting in some places today.
Yeah.
I actually know one of the executive producers, Keith Beauchamp. He invited me to a private screening that was hosted or sponsored by the University of Memphis.
Wow.
And the thing about it is like him, like he's a fellow artivist, he's a documentary filmmaker, and he really wanted to do this movie 30 years ago, but he had to go on a journey where he had met Mammy Till. Emmett's mom was a friend of hers for 8 years. He did a documentary based on their relationship, which led to the Justice Department reopening the Emmett Till case back in 2005.
Okay.
So like one of the things, yeah, like what I'm doing, I never thought that I'd be doing some of the things I'm doing now. Just going down the rabbit hole, it's the old saying, enjoy the journey more than the destination. There's a lot of things I'm doing today I never thought I'd be doing. If I had a time machine, I probably made different choices because of what I know now. But at the same time, I am curious enough to play my hand out. So I really do believe that when you look at the past is never past, and really it's a blueprint for your future. And with the Jimmie Lunceford thing, like he's considered the first high school band director in the city schools here in Memphis back in the 20s. But he volunteered to be a music instructor or teacher. But his passion was music. But what he did with music, he used it as a program or a process to create a rite of passage for young boys and girls to become responsible adults. So that's what he actually was doing with the music program at Manassas. But also he had a passion to entertain and to empower. So he took it.
Now you're speaking about Manassas. I understand, and I'm just been learning some of the recent history, as with Mr. Lunceford, that Manassas High School was one of the first, I guess you can say, Kappa schools, creative performing arts schools, and that the Smoky City, Klondike area was known for a lot of the jazz musicians. Is that correct?
It could be considered that because Jimmie Lunceford is credited to being the first person in the world to teach jazz studies in a formal educational setting, and he did it at Manassas back in the 20s. So you think about all the different colleges and universities, and people got jazz studies programs, and he started that back in the 20s. This volunteering because he had a social work background, but there's definitely a large number of jazz musicians that come out that area. Like one of Miles Davis's music heroes was Jimmie Lunceford growing up. He talked about his influence over him as a young kid in East St. Louis, listening to him on the radio, broadcasting from like the Cotton Club and stuff like that. But also Miles talked about, his bands in the 60s had a large number of Memphis musicians that came through, like Frank Strozier, like George Coleman, like Harold Mayburn. And they all came from this one school. He talked about Manassas. He said what they doing down there. Probably never realized that his music hero started that tradition at Manassas back in the 20s.
Yeah, so that definitely would have been, so that would have definitely been the Smoky City, Klondike area, because they would have been attending Manassas High School.
Right.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, with this particular jamboree, can you
Yeah.
break down first of all, break down what a jamboree is?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know about it. It sounded catchy, and I hear, I think about sock cocks growing up, and jamboree sound like very festive, celebratory. That's why we chose that. And
Yeah.
Jimmie Lunceford was known for bringing it. He was
Yeah.
really the king of the Battle of the Bands, and what people don't realize, because it's who tells our stories, that Jimmie Lunceford was a bigger draw than Duke Ellington and Count Basie and all them guys. He was the top band for African Americans during his day back in the 30s and 40s. So African American,
I never knew that. So
yeah,
has anyone? Okay, now I know that you're committed to keeping his legacy alive, but
right.
are there books? Have there been movies about him?
Well, it's a book that was written by a European who's a big fan of Jimmie Lunceford called Rhythm Is Our Business. And I think it was published through the University of Michigan Press back in the 2000s. And actually, Eddie Diamiter, that's his name. I interviewed him way back when I started getting interested in the story. But it's not really anything like in terms of a Duke or a Count. And people got to realize the reason why that is probably is because Duke Ellington and Count Basie lived to be almost 80 years old. And Jimmy died at 45 under questionable circumstances. So, I mean, that's probably what it
Questionable
is.
circumstances.
Yeah, like July 12th, 1947, and he was signing autographs at a music store right before his last concert gig at the Bungalow. It's a place called the Bungalow. It was a concert venue up in Seaside, Oregon. Now, people got to realize Oregon was really a Confederate state, so to speak, because when it became a state back in 1859, it had in its constitutions that Black folks could not live, work, or own property in Oregon. So Black folks didn't really start coming to Oregon until like around World War II because of the wartime industry. So they were working at those jobs. But Jimmy, he was a proud Black man. They went to a restaurant in Seaside, Oregon. And I believe this is where Lewis and Clark first saw the Pacific Ocean, because there's a statue dedicated to them on the beachfront of Seaside, Oregon. I mean, you ever been to Oregon? It's a beautiful state. I see why white folks wanted it for themselves all those years. And it's a gorgeous state, and like it's amazing the sunset. And anyway, Jimmie Lunceford demanded that they be served at this restaurant. The restaurant did not want to serve them. That's how the legend goes. They said they wanted hamburgers. The restaurant only had beef sandwiches to give them. It's like everybody who ate those beef sandwiches in the band got really, really sick, and Jimmie Lunceford actually died. He dropped dead, signing autographs at the music store right before the concert. So he was only 45 years young, and his band members did not know he was dead until halfway through the concert gig. But from my understanding, you had band members leaving the stage, going to the restroom, throwing up, and doing whatever. That's how it goes. I actually talked to a woman. I went there around the 70th anniversary of his death back in 2017. Building structures are still there, like the restaurant building structure still there. There's something else. The music shop structure still there, and the Bungalow is now a mall. They got a carousel in the middle of the mall, but the structure is still there. So I actually talked to a woman who was a town historian, and she was at the last concert, and she was a white lady, but she was a big fan of Lunceford, and her observations about that night was very interesting, even though like 70 years ago, at that time.
Right. That is very intriguing. My mind is just kind of like on fire. Like that story needs to be told. Like his story needs to be told. And I do understand, like you said, with him passing early in his life, and the Count, as you said, and others living to be into the 70s and 80s, that would impact the music industry and the stories. So when did you become interested in his life then, and how?
That's a great question, actually. It's funny. I went to school at Washington University in St. Louis. I call it, people call it Missouri. I call it misery. So I was in a state of misery for about several years at WashU. I had a foundational art teacher, foundational 3D studies art teacher named Giuseppe Peroni, Italian American from Boston, a proud Italian American. It's kind of like we got into it early my freshman year. Kind of like a Spike Lee joint, like Do the Right Thing, style. I'm Spike Lee character, whatever. And one day he showed a documentary, because like only me and another brother from Nashville, by the way, of California, we was in the class. And one day he showed a documentary about this guy named Sun Ra, and it blew my mind. Now the other Black dude, he was sleeping. He woke up and said, "Oh, okay," and then went back to sleep. I said, "Wait, what was this?" Like light bulb went off for me. I said, "This is Black dude." With like you got space pajamas on, got weird helmets on, He got this band of black people playing in front of the pyramids. They going around the world.
Wow.
God knows how they get money to support their travels and stuff. And he got this amazing philosophy talking about space is the place. And he said he was from Saturn and he was here to save the world and to teach the world how to love black people and how black folks to love themselves through his music, through his cosmic ministry. So that really got my imagination. So I got on one accord or one page with the my Italian American teacher. So he had this amazing extensive jazz music collection. So he would actually create tapes for me from his jazz collection. So he helped me get introduced to people like Donald Washington and Mal Waldron and some more Duke Ellington. Because I thought jazz was a white people thing because the way it was packaged when I was growing up. You know how you look at, you hear jazz music, you see some white folks, beat poets, snapping fingers and reciting poetries and beatniks and all that. I never thought it came from our people from the fields and from the churches and from even from the whorehouses and whatever Storyville. So it's a grassroots
music form of music.
Folk music. It's folk art. It's because from the people. But yeah, he got my mind going. So it's like it opened a lot of things. But when I started doing research into the history of jazz and I started taking music appreciation courses in school, everything led back to Memphis.
Everything. Come on now.
Everybody got a connection to Memphis.
Everybody.
Like if you look at even with Miles Davis, who I told about his connection to Jimmie Lunceford, he said the four most important words in jazz history is Louis Armstrong and Charlie Parker. Louis Armstrong's second wife, Lil Hardin Armstrong, she's a Memphian. She was born here February 3rd, 1898. She made him a superstar. Charlie Parker's dad is from Memphis. So
wait a minute.
It's not New Orleans.
Hold on. I am 1 minute old. Charlie Parker, daddy was from Memphis?
He's from Memphis, right. And my understanding, he came from a prominent family here in Memphis, in this area. They had roots in Clarksdale. Like Lil Hardin Armstrong was born here, but her folks were from Oxford, Mississippi. Everybody got roots in Mississippi.
Everybody got roots in Mississippi or in Louisiana.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the river and all that stuff.
My people actually were Alexandria, Louisiana, came up through the Mississippi and ended up actually north of Memphis.
Okay.
Up near Covington, like Isaac Hayes and stuff like that.
But,
but you still came through Memphis, and many of them would settle in Memphis and in the Woodstock, Millington area. Yes.
It's a powerful part of the country because everything runs through here. Like I tell people all the time, that the birthplace of modern America is Memphis, because you got to think about, the first supermarket was done by Piggly Wiggly, Clarence Saunders in 1916. Then you have FedEx was born here. Yes, Holiday Inn was born here on Summer Avenue back in August of 52. Then, it's the world's second largest cargo airport behind Hong Kong. Used to be number one for a while. I guess go back and forth, but everything, culture, commerce, religion, Bishop Mason, Memphian started Church of God in Christ here. Even barbecue, the father of American barbecue, modern American barbecue, is from Shelby County. Henry Perry, he's known as the father of Kansas City barbecue, but he's from the Memphis area. He took it up to Kansas City and he trained the folks that end up finding Arthur Bryant's, what people think is the most famous barbecue restaurant in America, and Gates Barbecue. So the father of modern barbecue is a black dude from here named Henry Perry.
Wow.
He got them folks in Kansas. I always go to Kansas City with my folks from Kansas City. I say, y'all might have some good barbecue, but it was Memphis cats that taught y'all the barbecue thing.
That's the same love-hate relationship we have with Atlanta, because it's like y'all couldn't be a music capital if half of our musicians hadn't moved to Atlanta.
Crunk is not from there, but it's funny. It's not funny, but like T.I. and Ludacris, and you think about Little John, they all give props to Memphis. They talk about Orange Mound. They know Crunk came from here. Like even Pimp C, before he died, he'd be like, hey man, Crunk ain't from no land, it's from Memphis, man. Y'all know that. But it's weird about Memphis. Memphis hate the people that makes it great. I go everywhere around the country. You'd be surprised. You may not be surprised. You will travel. Yeah, it's folks from Memphis connections doing very well in these different places.
Very well.
They don't like talking about Memphis, or they don't want to go back for whatever reason. It's sad. But Memphis is a hard knock place.
Yeah. It's a very interesting thing that you're talking about, because even like when you're talking about the space age, the jazz artist who was from Saturn and all like that, how even early in a lot of our, like you said, so much was born out of the philosophy, and maybe it's in the air or the apex of this geographical location, but even Maurice White and Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, so it's like there is something about the magic of Memphis. There is a magic here. And when you live anywhere else, while you may not be a Memphian who reps Memphis, and of course nowadays it's very vogue to rep Memphis.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But let me tell you, if you have ever step foot in anywhere else and say that you're from Memphis, you automatically become a rock star. You automatically become beloved.
That's true. I agree with you. That's weird though, but not here though. They hate you here, but everywhere else love you. That's weird.
I mean, they will worship the ground you stand on, you know. And for those who have learned to harness that, I mean, like yourself, you are committed to preserving the history and presenting the history to this generation. What type of support? Now, I know this could be touchy because I do know.
Go ahead. Be honest.
What type of support have you received throughout the years as someone who's committed your life and your craft to preserving Memphis culture and history?
That's a great question, man. To be honest with you, I mean, like my mom, Dr. Callie, you know, your mom always gonna love you. You know, you always gonna be handsome when other people think you ugly. You know, your mom always gonna think you handsome, whatever, and encourage you. So I've been blessed to have a very supportive mom, Dr. Callie Hurd, who taught me how to give back to people. But it's been a rough go. I'll be honest with you. It's like you realize once you be committed to something, you realize where you stand with people. People you thought were friends or supporters, they really reveal their true colors. And I can't say I'm surprised as far as I've been deep into what I've been doing. It doesn't surprise me anymore. And what surprised me sometimes is the support you do get from people you never thought you'd get it from, or from organizations you never thought you'd get it from. Because it's weird that I'll meet people that say, I know about you, that you doing all this. So-and-so said this about you, but so-and-so never offered any help. It's like they're looking on the sideline. They're trying to figure out if I'm going to succeed or fail. Like it's like people want you. Memphis is a hater town. I ain't gonna lie to you, it's a haters town, but it's a great town because your haters are your biggest fans.
That is true.
Your haters will cheer for you, let you know when you messing up and step your game up. I love my haters.
There was a rap artist that talked about that too. I was like, you know, but you know, I guess I'm always the glass half full type of person. I literally was having this conversation yesterday. I said, but you know, I believe for every hater, there's 10 people who love you. So I always count the love, you know. So there's, but my friends say I'm ultimate when it comes to optimism. Now, of course, we do have coming up the Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival, Legacy Awards. Let's talk about that and how people can get involved as it kicks off this next week.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. Like everything really is open and free to the public. And when the biggest thing is the last event on the last day, the 2022 Jimmie Lunceford Legacy Awards we'll be having at the Orpheum Theater from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's free and open to the public. Just ask for people to please register on Eventbrite so we can have a accurate number of people that said they're gonna come. I know people, you know, it's Memphis. People show up at the door. We got room. We try to fit you in, but we want you to go by protocol as much as you can, just for security reasons, stuff like that, so we know what we're dealing with. And we're gonna be honoring, like my mom, Dr. Callagher, came up with this brilliant idea of having a homecoming court where we honor some unsung greats or people that should get more attention. So we have 6 people in the court. We have a posthumous king and queen. Then have a living king and queen. Then we have a prince and princess. So this year, our posthumous king is Dr. William Herbert Brewster, longtime pastor of East Trigg Avenue Missionary Baptist Church out in South Memphis, off of Bellevue, and also one of the great gospel composers of all time, who was also Elvis Presley's favorite minister. Elvis used to go to East Trigg to listen to Dr. Brewster and his choir, like Queen Anderson, really unsung, the great Queen Anderson, and his choir sing and stuff like that. That really influenced Elvis on the gospel. And also he was I like to use the word mentor. I like to use Jegna because mentor means something else in Roman Greek stuff. But Jegna, he was like a help to Mahalia Jackson, right? He wrote Move On Up a Little Higher, one of the first million sellers in gospel. Yeah, Dr. Brewster. They got an elementary school name for him.
Yes, I'm familiar with a lot of his other stuff, but I always forget about that song because he and there was another lady who was in his circle, and they used to write a lot of the.
Oh yeah, well we gonna honor her too. We honor Lucy E. Cameron.
Yes. Lucy,
long-time educator of Booker T. Washington of all things, but also long-time director of the National Baptist Convention, music director. Like she actually was a Jegna to Marian Anderson, the opera singer. She was her teacher. She debuted Marian Anderson, her national debut through Lucy E. Campbell at the National Baptist Convention. And also she helped nurture Mahalia Jackson. And she also discovered and trained Dr. King's favorite singer, who is not Mahalia Jackson, but a brother named J. Robert Bradley from South Memphis, Mr. Baptist. Mahalia Jackson said that once he sung Amazing Grace, no one could do it better. And he was Dr. King's favorite singer, the dude from South Memphis. Mr. Baptist, who had an operatic range. You should check his stuff out on YouTube. He passed away in Nashville back in 2007. So Lucy Campbell, longtime teacher at Booker T. Washington for decades, from Duck Hill, Mississippi, the last of 9 children. Mama was widowed early, and she made it through the grace of God.
I have this flyer up, and for those who can possibly watch it, I do see. Yes, Dr. W. Herbert. I used to love that Dr. W. Herbert Brewster, on AM radio. Lucy E. Campbell, of course, as you say, Boo Mitchell, Wendy Moten.
That's right.
Also, I know Deborah Manning, but this one young man, Christopher.
Drummer Boy.
Yeah, Drummer Boy. Okay.
Yeah, hip hop producer. He did I Put On For My City for Kanye and Jeezy. A lot of stuff he did, prolific.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, his father is also an amazing writer as well, and things of that nature. So let me ask you this. With all this history that you have gathered, have you considered, and of course, Kim, there are some other events and stuff that you put on, such as the wreath laying ceremonies, and there's so much that, be sure to go to his website, show support to what he's doing in so many different ways. Donations help, attendance help, spreading the word helps, showing love in all the different ways that you can really helps. But are you on the path to creating a shrine to this, a museum? And is this something that, are you on that path? Because you definitely need to be.
I appreciate that. Actually, I'm thinking about long-term projects involving this legacy, because I ain't gonna be here forever. So I think about that, succession, and I don't know what's gonna happen after me, but at least I left a mark where people could pick up where I left off at. So we are working on a feature-length documentary, because I have interviewed people over the years about Mr. Lunceford. Some of these people actually know him, and they no longer here. So that means it's time for me to put this stuff out there before I be no longer here.
I can help. Let me know how I can help.
Okay. Yeah. You said it's on your show. We got a record of this.
Look, most people don't know that I'm a historian in the making too. I want to find ways to use radio, television, and film to capture history. And I'll say that I even have a 501c3 that I've been trying to regroup. And because I do want to preserve history, like I said, we grew up kind of north of Memphis in a rural community, and there's a lot of history there. And and the depopulation, the aging of even old rural communities, the history oftentimes die with our people. And I just want it. So any way I can help. So anyway, I can help you. Yeah. So we'll be talking. Yes, we will. And
I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. It went by too fast.
Oh, I know. Indeed. But you know something, any way that you all can also support, go to, as a matter of fact, the Ebright, look for the Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival Legacy Awards. It's absolutely free. This is a family affair. Bring your young person, bring your children, bring any young musician and singer and anyone who's involved in the arts, so that they can learn about these amazing people, those upon whose shoulders we all stand upon. And I really thank you for being consistent in your work, that you're doing. Any last words before we go?
I just want to encourage people to stay strong, and also we have different events. Like we got the gospel music concert from 3 to 5 on Sunday at the New East Trigg Avenue Church. We have a screening at the Stax Museum on Wednesday night from 6 to 9 p.m. The Hallelujah movie, which was filmed in South Memphis in the Lemoyne area, nominated for Academy Award, first Black talkie Hollywood produced movie back in the 20s. And also we have a thing Thursday, we're doing luncheon with Lunceford at his grave, eating lunch, telling stories, playing songs and all that stuff. And on Friday, we have a listening session at the Memphis Listening Lab at Crosstown from 5 to 8 p.m. Talking about Jimmie Lunceford and Memphis music. So all of that is free leading up to Saturday at the Orpheum, October 22nd.
All right. And we're going to close with this.
Greetings, family. This is your brother Ron, with an urgent request. Can you help us honor this man, this amazing black man, James Melvin Lunceford, for at least one night in Memphis? If they could give Elvis 2 weeks out of the year in Memphis, why not honor a black man who brought music education to the city schools, who believed in black people, who lived among black people, who gave back to black people? Help us honor Jimmie Lunceford on Saturday, October 22nd, 2022 at the Orpheum Theater, downtown Memphis. We are not only honoring the legacy of the first person in the history of the world to teach jazz studies in a formal educational setting up in North Memphis at Manassas High, but we also honoring black excellence and also the world-renowned Memphis music sound. So please find it in your hearts and in your wallets and in your purses and in your Cash Apps and your Vimos and Zelles and Google Pay and PayPal to help us honor this brother, because we are providing this service free, but it's costing me time, money, and all types of stuff. But I want to give it free so we could learn how to pay the right respect to the righteous ancestors who believed in us, who didn't give up, give out, or give in on us. You see how it works? So thank you all for even considering, because you know that the best is yet to come. Because let this man's burial in Memphis be inspirations for many generations more to plant seeds in your people, to invest in your people, to believe in your people, to achieve with your people. Thank you so much. One love.